Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Backlog Bunker. Obviously it's been a while, but I'm just going to get right into it because I don't know if I'm going to be doing the bunker for a whole long while. The whole point of making bunkers originally was to give myself content to supplement my channel with something that I enjoy talking about, which is just, my thoughts on the games that I played in whatever amount of time. It's supposed to give my channel some kind of content in between the video essays so that it wouldn't die in the quote-unquote algorithm. But then, I started doing it, and the only video essay I ended up making was the Sonic one, and that wasn't even one that I had planned. It was kind of in the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to make bunkers up until I make 2 more video essays, which is going to give me at least hopefully some inspiration to actually make them, and see how viewership is affected, if it even is, and determine then whether or not I want to keep doing it. As for why there hasn't been a bunker in a while, I was going to make one, but then I got sick, and then I was going to make one, but then I had to graduate, and then I was going to make one, but then I was in Japan, and then I was going to make one this past week, but I forgot. So I'm trying to get back into the habit of it now, so that, again, I have something to do in between video essays. That's all for that update. Now I'm just going to do what's basically a lightning round for me. Also, I'm sorry if the audio isn't great in this video. When I usually record a bunker, I cut out things like any stutters that go on for more than like a second, and any ums and uhs and buts and then ands and then pauses, things like that, or rambles like the one you're hearing right now. But it is hot as fuck in my house right now because our AC isn't working. So I'd rather not record a bunker for like 40 minutes like I usually do, and then have to edit a bunker for upwards of like another 20 minutes like I usually do, because the length of time that it takes to record a bunker is firstly double the length of the video because I listen back to everything that I said in any given like chunk, and then further expanded upon anytime I have to re-say something because I just fucked up how I said it, or because I accidentally moved away from the mic while I was saying it so then it was too quiet. Something that, looking at the waveform in Audacity, I have already seen has happened in this recording, but I'm not going back to record it because I'm too hot. Anyway, lightning round. Firstly, I beat Resident Evil 4. It's a really solid action game that was very good at forcing me to use resources constantly, but effectively. It's the thing I talked about in the last bunker, but just getting out of my comfort zone of you have to hoard all of the good shit because you might need it later, it was fun. It was fun to walk into a fight and be like, hey, there's like 5 guys here, just burn them all to death. What are incendiary grenades for if not to use on 5 guys? And all the praises that I gave to it in the last bunker still stand. Getting into that flow state of using these things, especially in some of the longer fights in the game, it's a really special feeling, and I like it a lot. Unfortunately, I can't say I liked it much more than that. It's like an 8 out of 10 experience, which is pretty high, all things considered. I don't know if it's like the best game ever of all time, but it is a very, very, very solid third-person action game, and I like it a lot for that, and I really wish they would make another Resident Evil game that was like that, and no, the remakes do not count. I beat Fire Emblem Fates Birthright. It's a good game that's mechanically superior to Awakening in quite a few ways, mostly due to the pair-up system. Where it tends to falter, though, is when it comes to map design. I've been playing the game on hard because I'm obviously a Fire Emblem veteran by now, and a lot of this game's maps seem designed with the intention that you land every single one of your hits, but since that's tied very heavily to RNG, it can often feel like I died for no fault of my own. This wouldn't be nearly as bad if I was fine letting a character die, every now and then, but I'm not going to deny myself support content just because the game fucked me over. I also started playing Fate's Conquest, and the maps are even worse. It's everything that Birthright did, but double down on. If you have to pull out the double hint screen explaining how the gimmick of a map works, then maybe you overtune the gimmick just a little bit. Next thing, I quit Mega Man X. At this point, I just have to accept that X isn't really the kind of game that I want to play when it comes to level design, and the difficulty isn't worth pushing through for a game that I'm not really enjoying. I got up to Sigma, but I don't feel like trying the boss over and over again just to beat a game that I didn't like anyway. It doesn't help that they make you climb a giant fuck-off tower every single time you want to retry the boss either. And then lastly, I beat Rhythm Heaven Fever for the 2nd time, this time on actual hardware. It's crazy just how much of the game that I struggled with on PC because I was emulating it before, but it's still a fantastic game. I think the fact that I managed to enjoy it on PC despite the emulation issues speaks to how good it is. I certainly have a more positive reception to all of the minigames this time around, and whenever I get to the video, I also have more to meaningfully analyze, because I was just paying more attention this time, given that I've already played all these games before, but still. And that's all the updates for the games that I actually played, but as I mentioned a few months ago, I also made a game, technically. It was my senior project, and now that I've graduated, the only thing I really want to say about it is that I didn't get to do everything that I wanted to do. In terms of making the thing, I didn't get very far into the actual gameplay loop part of the making the game, because I vastly underestimated just how much time I needed to complete it. 16 weeks was just not enough time between a personal life, a job, and other classes. The project served me fine as a proof of concept for using a state machine in the game, which would have been really helpful if I started with that as my scope, but unfortunately I didn't. And obviously it was good enough to serve as a completion criteria for my major. My professor certainly liked it, but I wish I had done more, because I wanted to make a video game, but there was not enough time to make a whole ass video game. Not by myself, at least. And especially not in a genre that I hadn't made a game in before, because the previous demo that I made was a turn-based RPG, and this was a platformer, so I had to learn a lot of things on the fly that I didn't already know. Chief among them being two things that didn't apply to the turn-based RPG, that being the physics and the camera. Since I was, for all intents and purposes, making a Mega Man clone, I wanted the physics and camera to be authentic, but unfortunately, making the physics accurate was a very lengthy process because it took a lot of messing with velocity functions in Godot, and comparing the jump arc that I made to one in actual Mega Man. But then, unless you're going for the most basic movement of all time, jump arcs are not intuitive to code in Godot, because you have to adjust the speed of the actual jump and the effect gravity has on it individually. They are two separate things. Gravity you have to make, and even velocity you can change with your own values, but the velocity thing itself it's a whole property. I'm not going to get into it. The point is, I had to create my own gravity, and I had to affect the velocity dynamically. I couldn't just have it be a number, which got even more complicated when you want to include short jumps, like when you press the button for only a certain amount of time, and then you only do a part of your jump. I just had to code that dynamically, which I, again, was not used to because I had never done it before. Made even worse by the fact that half of the video guides out there on Godot are in an outdated version. Sometimes they're not even in Godot 4, and even if they are in Godot 4, they could be in early 0.1s or 0.2. Where different functions just did not exist before. I had to create my own tile set because when I was working on Godot 2 years ago for the other demo, I could use a tile map, I think, just fine. But in between then and now, they discontinued it, so I had to figure out how the tile set works, and it was a little bit different, but no one had a video on it, because I guess no one was paying attention, I don't know. And then I forgot I mentioned the camera. The problem with that was that I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to get it to stop moving near walls, and then teleport into like the next room when you hit the wall transition, you know, like a Mega Man. And I eventually figured it out, but even then, I had to compromise on the fact that it wasn't going to be exactly like Mega Man, where like the screen freezes and the camera slowly moves over. I basically just made a teleport there, and even then when I figured it out, that was like 3 weeks later. So I lost 3 weeks to figuring out that one part of the thing, on top of the fact that I had to do other classwork. The point that I'm trying to get at here is that making games is hard, but that's not an excuse. I did enough to graduate, like I said, my professor liked it, but it was scaled back from my initial proposal by, like, a lot. Because again, in my initial proposal, I said I was going to make a whole game, and I didn't do that. So, in that aspect, I literally failed. Entirely of my own fault, because I shouldn't have set my scale that high. Which is why I don't really give grace to industry devs, because, yes, game development is hard, but that doesn't mean anything to me. Only if things are hard, that's not an excuse to not do them. And if you have mistakes in your work, there can be a lot of nuanced reasons for why they exist, but simply the fact that it was hard to do it in the first place is not a reason in and of itself. That's just a description of the thing you did. What, am I gonna go to my professor with only the jump working at the end of the semester, and then be like, sorry I didn't do any of the rest of my project? Making games is hard! Okay. Anyway, I can't wait to become a productive member of the game industry. That's definitely booming and not making me incredibly depressed right now. Speaking of, the weekly topic this week is that there is no weekly topic, because originally it was going to be the Nintendo Direct. However, they ended up making one of the worst directs of all time, and I don't really want to talk about it, because it makes me mad, especially Ocarina of Time, because the bunker I was going to record before I got sick was going to be, the weekly topic that week was going to be the Star Fox reveal, because I was going to say that I was going to ask, rather, if Star Fox being remade for the Switch 2 is the most cynical Nintendo game of all time, but luckily, Nintendo's got my back, and they let me use a more relevant topic to when this video is coming out, that being, is Ocarina of Time the most cynical video game Nintendo's ever made? At the very least with Star Fox, you can argue that a niche series that has never really sold all that well is a perfect fodder for getting remade, even if the specific game they chose was a very bad choice. But for Ocarina of Time, what could possibly be the merit of this, aside from just, we want your fucking money? If this ends up being Ocarina of Time, but it's Breath of the Wild, then that's just creatively bankrupt because everyone buys Breath of the Wild, so they'll buy this one too. Fuck you. If they end up making a traditional Zelda, then hey, you want a traditional Zelda? Instead of making a new one, we'll just repackage the old one, and you'll buy it, cause fuck you. That statistic of the average Pokemon player age being like 30 is very illuminating when it comes to Nintendo games, because it gives me the feeling that there are a lot of Nintendo demographics that are just the older fans that spend the most money, and they're catering to them with things like, hey, do you want to play Fire Red and Leaf Green on a Nintendo Switch? The only fucking virtual console equivalents that are going to be released on the Switch, because we know you'll pay for it, all $40. Hey you, yes you, watching this direct, there's a statistically likely chance that you've both played Ocarina of Time when you were a child and have a disposable income now. So, how about buying the Ocarina of Time remake, haha? It's just cynical. I don't know if there's any way you could possibly describe the decision to remake Ocarina of Time specifically as anything but cynical. Aside from that, there's not really a lot from the Direct that made me happy, partially because I think it's the worst Direct since like September of 2018. At least I'm pretty sure it was September. It was like the fall-ish season before Smash Bros. Came out. I'm pretty sure it's the Direct that Isabelle was announced in. It was just overall not a very good Direct. This Direct was Port City, a bunch of games that are shit, a bunch of games that I don't care about, and then the few things that I did care about did not fill me with much hope. Kingdom Hearts 4 finally is cool, but there was no release date and no Disney Worlds, which leads me to believe that this game is nowhere close to being finished, and I'm expecting it at 2030 at the earliest. Xenoblade Genesis is another Xenoblade game, which is cool. However, it being a Xenoblade game does not guarantee it will be good, because of the 3 Xenoblade games that I've played, one of them has awful gameplay. You know which one I'm talking about. And for Xenoblade Genesis, they didn't show any gameplay. So how am I supposed to be hyped about this when, for all I know, this could be the second coming of Xenoblade 2? It also doesn't help that the story framing seems to take place entirely around this school, which leads me to believe that it won't do the traditional Xenoblade thing of you start in like what seems like it's going to be a hub world, but then you gradually have to expand your adventure outside of it, like a very traditional hero's journey. I don't want to be coming back to the stupid fucking school every 5 or so hours when I'm playing Xenoblade Genesis. I just don't want it to happen. I want to be excited for Fire Emblem, but it's a sequel to the Fire Emblem game that I hated. They're doing more hub world bullshit that I don't want to interact with. And it's $80! It's $80! Can we all collectively remember the last time Nintendo made an $80 video game and how people are complaining about it now because it was $80 and it really didn't feel like it was worth it? The only thing I can say that I unequivocally enjoyed from this Direct was Rhythm Heaven Groove, a game we already fucking knew was coming. There was nothing to be excited about here. This Direct was fucking worthless. I might rewatch the September 2018 one just to compare. That's the end of the recording. That's it.